Good morning, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen over here. Okay. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Yitzchak Pierson. I'm a real estate broker here in New Braunfels, Texas, which is in between Austin and San Antonio. Um, Today, this class is going to be, hold on, I'm trying to move around. There we go. Okay, this class is on achievement now, overcoming barriers to success in real estate. This was one of the first classes that I put together. It's supposed to be about an hour long and had an hour of continuing education attached to it. So today we're not going to go into an hour. This is the agent Power Huddle, typically about 25 to 30 minutes just to get your morning going. Every day of the week, we have somebody on here speaking for about 30 minutes. This is part of the agent collective. So I'll go ahead and get started. A little bit about what this class is meant to help you with. Barriers to success. We're going to dive deeper into that. Vision and goal setting, practices for achievement, accountability. We may not touch all of these, but we'll go ahead and hop into it. So, barriers of success, we may think of these being physical barriers. A lot of times it's mental barriers. I think that me starting out in the business, I had a lot of self-limiting beliefs, and so we're going to talk about that. Outdated practices. I've kind of seen that the longer you're in this business, or there are certain agents who've been in the business a long time, and they're very set in their ways. Some of their practices may be outdated, and they're not willing to be open and learn. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. And then external market challenges. We're always going to be having shifting markets. So a lot of that is just mindset too. Instead of saying it's a bad market, you have to look at the good and the positive. So we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that. So some of the prevalent barriers within real estate, such as fear of failure, resistance to change, and limiting beliefs. For those of you who don't know my story, I only have a seventh grade education. I quit school when I was 13, and I've been working full time, mostly manual labor jobs. So I had a lot of self limiting beliefs around not being able to do more than manual labor jobs. I had to work a lot to get outside of that to frame a lot of my beliefs so that I could have the level of success that I currently have in this business. And I think we all have things that are programmed in us from an early age, whether it was through our parents, through the school system, through the people we surrounded ourselves with. And we have to question whether those beliefs are still serving us or if they're holding us back. And this next slide it's from a quote from a guy named Erwin McManus. He's a pastor and fashion designer. He's a little bit outside of the normal realm, but when I heard this saying, it really hit home for me. Belief can become the enemy of truth because when you believe something with every fiber of your being, you're incapable of discerning whether it is true or not. So we have to look at our belief systems. That's a sign of growing and maturing, is questioning whether what we believe is actually something we believe or if that's something that was programmed into us by our parents or our environment. And is that serving us? Even if you believed it at one point, is it still relevant for you today? Is there a better belief that you could choose to believe in order to help you accomplish the goals that you're working to accomplish personally or professionally? So we have to work on understanding our previous conditioning. So again, past experiences, they shape our perceptions, like our perceived reality. We all perceive and have a different frame of reference for the world that we see in front of us. So we could see the exact same thing, and I interpret it one way and you interpret it one way because of your past experiences and your frame of reference. So we have to question, especially in real estate. We have to understand our clients and the way that they view things and try and understand things from their point of view, and oftentimes bridge the gap in communication based off of what we know and they don't know what we know. So we have to do a great job at breaking it down into small ingestible bites for our clients. And in life, I think that's something that we have to do in our day-to-day life as well. we I'm on the professional standards committee, and I see a lot of complaints come in, ethics complaints from realtors, and one more so recently from consumer. But it was lack of communication and butting heads and egos getting in the way. And so we have to really work to take a step back and try and see things from other people's perspective and understand their point of view, even if we don't agree with it. Some of these things can limit us in our ability to grow and earn more income if we're not able to um, see these things from different perspectives. Again, you don't have to agree with it, but having the understanding to have collaboration with either your client or the agent on the other side is going to help you tremendously. So, the next part, barriers to success in real estate, is the people we surround ourselves with. I've had to let go of a lot of past relationships and friendships that no longer help me in life or in business. And so we tend to want to hold on to things. There's the sunk cost fallacy, which is we've invested so much time into this relationship or into this venture, and we don't want to let it go because of the time that we've invested. And I think there's a time and a season for people and ventures. Not everything is meant to work out. Not everything is meant for you. Not everyone is meant for you. So again, we've probably heard this. You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Show me your friends and I'll show you your future. So you have to question, are your friends, are the people in your lives, even if they're family, holding you back? Are they a circle that is helping you grow, or are they a cage that's holding you back? So you want people that encourage you and uplift you. And when you share your big visions, you want them to be excited for you. You want them to encourage you. There's certain people that hold you back, put you in a cage. There's the analogy of, if you put lobsters in a bucket, you don't have to put the lid on the bucket with, I think it's crabs or lobsters, because when one starts to crawl out, the others grab it and pull it back down. And so you have to make sure you're not surrounding yourself with people who are pulling you back down to their level. Once you start getting a little bit of success, once you start having more fulfillment in life, being happier. Misery loves company. So you're going to have people that are going to want you to stay there with them for you not to move forward. So this is one of the barriers to success that you have to examine in your life. A lot of people like staying in their comfort zone. I worked in manufacturing for 11 years, and I worked with people who had been there 20, 30, 40 years, and they were miserable, but they were too comfortable, too scared to make a change, to do something different. They were too close to retirement, so they just chose to stay in their comfort zone. And so this is the next thing that I want to talk about, is getting out of your comfort zone. I was in it for a long time. I just wanted to do the bare minimum. I kind of sank to the level of the people around me at my job. I was a good performer when I first started. I got employee of the month, I got employee of the quarter, I got a couple raises, and then things just kind of fizzled out. I started seeing that these people were like, why would I? They're not doing any extra. They're getting paid the same as me. And so I got into this comfort zone of let me just do the bare minimum. Let me do what everybody else is doing. I shouldn't do more. And so I wanted to get out of that environment. And in that comfort zone, you feel safe, you feel confident, you have control over everything. You can experience extreme boredom, but you feel competent. It's just enough. And so then you have to get out of that. And the next level is the fear zone. So fear zone, I've the more I've put myself into uncomfortable situations that challenge me where I'm afraid, the more I've realized that good things happen from doing things that you're afraid of doing. So I've forced myself to, when I feel afraid to do something or I feel like it's stretching me past my comfort zone, I choose to do it. And so, a lot of those things, the more you expand out, this one's a little bit in depth. I'm going to go to the next slide. So again, you have you're safe, comfortable, in control, and then you get the fear zone, intimidated by outside ideas. Then you start getting into the problem solving, receptive to outside input. And then the growth zone, you surpass milestones. So this is something that is tremendous to have this visualization, to have this visual of, okay, I'm in this little circle, this little, and it's so scary to branch out of that. But the good things in life happen from doing things that you're afraid to do. So going through this is a normal part of life. When you got your real estate license, taking all of the education, and then once you got your license, you're like, what do I do now? Finding a brokerage, all of these things that we've done, and there's no finish line. It's a never ending process of we get comfortable with this one thing and then it's like, all right, how do I learn more? How do I take it to the next level? So that's never going to change. So the more you learn to embrace the fear zone, the learning zone, there's also, if you've never heard of it, the 4 stages of competence. With learning any new thing, you have unconscious incompetence where you don't know what you don't know. There's going to be something that comes into your life that completely changes your life and you have no idea it even exists. So unconscious incompetence. And then you have conscious incompetence where you realize how little you know about something. And then you have conscious competence where it's like, okay, I've done this enough times, I can do it, I know what I'm doing, like, I'm good. And then you have the unconscious competence where you're so competent at it, you don't even realize you're doing it anymore. And that's one of the goals, is to get to that in an area, and then you expand outside of that. But good example is you never knew how to drive, you learned how to drive, now you drive places without even realizing what you're doing. You get to the destination and you're like, oh, I didn't even pay attention to the gas and the turn signals and all of that. So that there's hope for every scenario that you get into, that you can overcome those barriers and become competent. And I believe the more education you take, the more you invest in yourself and personal growth and development, the quicker that competence comes, and thus you get confidence. And the more confidence you have, it's like a repetitive cycle. So, one way that you can work to get over your fears is reframing them. So, this is an exercise that I take some coaching clients through. So, if you're afraid, this was one for me personally. I don't like making phone calls. It took me a long time to get over that, and I still don't do cold calling. But this is for I had a hesitancy just getting on the phone talking to people. Now I'd rather get on the phone and talk to somebody than texting. But I'm afraid to make calls for my business. I'd really like to make calls for my business without fear, and I scare myself by imagining the rejection of that I would receive, or somebody being mean to me on the other end of the line. And so you want to reframe that as, I want to make phone calls for business. And if you can reframe the imagined scenario in your head, because fear is an acronym for false evidence appearing real, or there's multiple ways to put that, but this is something that we made up in our head. But we don't know that that's the way that this conversation is going to go. So if you reframe it to, these people they're going to be happy that they get a phone call from me. I'm adding value to their day with the information and knowledge that I'm calling them about, and they're going to get a big smile on their face and feel happier after our call. You don't know what's going on. That person could be overwhelmed with life, and they've been meaning to reach out to an agent to sell their home, and you just happened to call them and it solved, a major stress that they were having. So reframing it to the best case scenario. The worst case scenario is just as possible as the best case, and the more energy that you put into the best case scenario, the more likely it is to happen. And your energy is going to be better because you're focusing on the good and the positive, and people can feel that. So, writing down your fears and then reframing them is one of the best ways and tools to overcome that fear and anxiety. And you may have to do this every single time, but the more you do it, the more reps you put in, the easier it's going to get, and the more you're going to expand your capacity for having difficult conversations. Your capacity is going to expand. Doesn't mean it's going to get easier, but you're going to get better at it from putting in the reps and doing it. So these are some of the daily things that we want to combat, that we want to, we're going to get discouragement. We're going to go, our market goes up and down, our days are up and down. You're going to have doubts in yourself. You're going to get distracted. You're going to procrastinate. You're going to, delay things. You're like, oh, if I just wait a little bit longer. So what is the opposite? Just like reframing your fears, what are you going to do to encourage yourself every day, to create self belief, to get rid of the distraction? You need to take action. You need to set up goals. You need to do things that help you combat these things proactively. So, one thing that a lot of people like to do is create creative avoidance. This is like, especially if we work from home. Oh, I need to go do the laundry, or I need to go do the dishes. You try to find things that are still like avoiding the thing that you should be doing. So procrastination is the assassination of your destination. This is one of my favorite sayings. It's taking you can't let all of life get to you. And so um that's we're going to hop into the next section, which is what is going to help you prevent that. So vision and goal setting. um we all know about this. How often do we actively do it? So the statistics are there, that we'll go into the statistics in a little bit on how important it is for you to write out your vision and your goals. So the more clarity you have on what you're trying to accomplish in business or in life, the more likely it is that you're going to find it. So we have a part of our brain, the reticular activating system. This is what filters out everything that we have so much stimuli every single day. And the reticular activating system is part of what helps filter that out, but it also helps you focus on what you're looking for. So you buy a new car, you start seeing that car everywhere. The car was already there, but now because it's on your mind, you're going to see it more. So same with vision and goal setting. When you write down your goals and you know what you're looking to accomplish, the more your mind is going to help you find the things that help you get to those goals. And we all struggle with, I feel like most high performers, most people who want to accomplish, feel we're our own worst critics. We don't feel like we're doing enough. We feel like we're too far behind, or we should be further ahead. And so, vision beyond current circumstances. Just because you're not where you want to be, you can still have a vision for where you're going. So, I believe in your highest potential more than your current circumstances. You have to believe in that too. just because of things that have happened in the past, things that are happening right now, does not dictate where you're going in the future. You get to choose where you're going and what you're going to accomplish. And it's by setting these little goals and habits every day. So I always like to say start with the end in mind and then reverse engineer it. So in the future, if you have clarity on what the life is that you want to have looks like, this is another activity that I take coaching clients through. So where would you live? What would your house look like? This is future casting, essentially. If you have a vision of what your life looks like, then your reticular activating system is gonna find the things that help you achieve that. Whatever you put in it's your GPS system. It's gonna tell you and take you where you want to go, and whether that's negative or positive. So where do you want to live? What would that look like? What time would you wake up? What would you eat for breakfast? Exercise? What would you do? What details, draw your attention? What would you do with the first half of the day? Who would be around you? Again, the people that you surround yourself with. What do you do for lunch? With whom? So really have a very vivid vision and write it down. So we'll go into the next section on statistics. So we'll talk through yeah, we'll skip that. A lot of these slides are extra. So there's a study at Harvard for 10 years, and only 3% of people had their goals written down. 13% had goals, but not in writing. 84% had no specific goals at all. 10 years later, the 13% who had goals but had not written them down, that averaged twice as much as the 84% who had no goals. But the 3% who had clear written goals were earning an average of 10 times more than the other 97% of graduates. The only difference between the groups was the clarity of their goals that they had for themselves. So this is scientifically proven. I am a living testament to this. I have written down my goals for the last 7 years, and I have accomplished every single goal that I have written down. It may not have been on the timeline that I wanted, but I still accomplished them, and I continue to keep accomplishing the goals that I write. So again, living proof here. I'm sure some of you can attest to this, but again, it's the process of the reticular activating system that we have the manifestation, the law of attraction, but none of that works without the law of action. You have to know where you're going. You have to reverse engineer it. What steps did I take to get there? So think about it as your future self. Okay, if I was going to accomplish this, or find somebody else who has done what you want to do and see some of the steps that they took to get there. So if you don't know where you're going, you're not going to be able to get there. Reverse engineer, figure out what it is that you did to get there. And then when you're struggling with the confidence and the doubt of like, I don't know if I can do that. So this is another exercise that I take my clients through. So we've all accomplished things, whether it's small, big, medium. All of us have done something. So I suggest that you take this, write out 50 successes. It can be getting your driver's license, getting your first job, getting a promotion, getting a raise. You need to have build up your credibility in your own mind. Sometimes you have to like I have a wall of accomplishment. There's a guy named John Assaraf, and he has a book called Inner Size, and it talks about how we exercise our body, we can inner size our brain, and it goes into neuroplasticity and our ability to change who we are no matter what stage of life we're in. And he has the concept of an accomplishment board. We all have heard of vision boards and dream boards, but he had an accomplishment board of everything that he had accomplished. And so I started doing that. I have a wall of my awards and achievements and certifications and things that give me more confidence to keep moving forward and striving and working for better things. So start small, write out 50 successes that you've accomplished in your life. And those little successes give you momentum, and they build to bigger successes until you're accomplishing the things and the goals that you set for yourself 10 years in advance in 6 months. And so I'll leave you with this. I know this was a lot packed into 30 minutes, but you have to have clarity on where you're going, and you have to have goals set up, and you have to write them down, and you have to look at them, and then you have to realize that you are capable of doing and accomplishing these things. So I thank you all for joining me today, and I hope you got value out of this. So I will see you in a couple weeks, and I hope y'all have a great week. Go out there and really do this exercise. Write down 50 successes that you've done, and then keep going. All right.
If you'd like more information or to get connected to the Agent Power Huddle, join our free Facebook group. This call was designed for the agents in our EXP organization, but open to any agent from any brokerage. If you're a guest and you're interested in learning more about EXP or our specific resources within the Agent Collective, reach out to the person who invited you to this call to get more info. Produced by the Agent Collective Media Network.